Today's session is focused on the shoulder. Okay, so lay on your back and we're just first of all going to think about what we're feeling between our body and the floor, so where we're feeling connected. So our points of connection should be underneath both feet equally, underneath the lumbosacral junction, which is the junction between your lower back and your pelvis, underneath the TL junction, which is the junction between your mid-back and your lower back, and then underneath both shoulder blades and underneath the back of the head. So to get better connected, we're just going to start from our feet, and if you're feeling like you've got pressure more on one side than the other, just have a play with shifting the weight from side to side until you feel like you've got equal pressure underneath both of your feet. And then work your way up to your pelvis. And what we want to do is we want to get our pelvis into a neutral position, and meaning our lower backs will be in a neutral position as well. And with that, you'll feel better connected between your lumbosacral junction and the floor. So to do that, we're going to try and just pull the spine away from the floor. So you get this arch and your pelvis goes into this anterior tilt. And then you're going to reverse peel. So your pelvis is going into a posterior tilt, anterior tilt, posterior tilt, anterior. And then you just want to stop about midway between those two end ranges where your pelvis should feel in a neutral position. Spine should be flat on the floor. There shouldn't be any gap between your spine and the floor. But equally, you shouldn't be curved into the floor, so it should just be flat. So you should now feel better connection between your lumbosacral junction and the floor. And then we're going to work our way to the rib cage. So rib cage and pelvis, they want to be parallel with each other. So they want to be parallel so that when you breathe in and as your diaphragm goes down, you want them to be parallel so that your pelvis, your diaphragm and your pelvic floor can communicate properly so that you can get the most efficient sort of breathing strategy. So imagine that they're like the pages of a book and you want the pages to be closed, so you want them to be parallel with each other. But quite often, people tend to be in an open book position, so the ribs flare, get this arch underneath the lower back. So we want to try and imagine trying to pull the rib cage and the pelvis into connection by closing the pages of the book, and then you should feel better connected between the TL junction and the floor. And this is really important to try and keep the ribcage and pelvis connected throughout the whole of this flow. And then we're going to work our way to the shoulders. So shoulders want to be equal weight underneath both shoulder blades. So again, have a shuffle about, mess with the weight, see if you can get a bit more equal. And then the shoulders, like I said to you at the start of the video, they don't want to be internally rotated, protracted and elevated. So you want to try and activate round the back here and underneath the shoulder by pulling the shoulder into slight retraction, external rotation and depression. And that should get your shoulder into a more neutral position. And then the head wants to be pushed down towards the mat, looking up towards the ceiling. You don't want any neck extension and you don't want any neck flexion or forward head posture. So that wants to push right back down and activate these muscles at the front here. So next we're just going to work on our breath. So put one hand on the chest, one hand on the tummy. And we're first of all just going to get the breath in the right order. So as you're breathing in, your tummy wants to lift, and as you're breathing out, your tummy wants to lower. And it does that because as you breathe in, your diaphragm should go downwards towards your pelvic floor, and that then creates intra-abdominal pressure the whole way around. So when you breathe in, the hand wants to lift. So we're going to breathe in, So just think about what your breath's doing. Think about this hand on the tummy lifting as you breathe in and lowering as you breathe out. Really focus on your breath. If you've done this before, just think of it as a meditation, just trying to let all the stresses and worries just melt away. If you've not done it before and you're really struggling, that's bound to happen, so don't worry. Just the more you practice this, sort of during these flows and outside of these flows, so in everyday life, the easier they get, the more subconscious that breathing becomes and the less you have to think about it. So don't get frustrated with it, just keep trying. Let's do a couple more breaths. Hand on the chest doesn't want to move anywhere as you're breathing in and out. So now that we've got the breath in the right order, we want to make sure that we are using our diaphragm, the whole of the diaphragm. So it's called a 360-degree breath. So as you breathe in and the diaphragm goes down, you want to feel activation the whole way around the abdomen. So grab hold of your waist, fingers around these bony bits at the front, the web of the hand around the waist, thumbs into the back, and just to wake your muscles up, to let your body know where they are, or let your brain know where they are, should I say. If you just cough, feel those muscles expand, and now as you're breathing in, try and think about all those muscles lifting and expanding and trying to push your hands away. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, and imagine that you're blowing through a straw. So purse your lips and imagine you're blowing through a straw. If you're struggling to wake those or find these muscles, if you just cough a few times, wake them up, poke the bits that you can't feel. You should be feeling this equally from front to back and from side to side, so it should be equal the whole way around. So most people tend to find it easier around the front, but we'll start around there. So if you just poke into that front part, give it a prod, give it a cough. Now think about those muscles. Just really try and focus on those front muscles, trying to push your fingers away as you breathe in. Now, think about the side bits, so poke your thumbs in there, cough again, feel those muscles, and now think about pushing your thumbs away, outwards with those muscles. And now think about the back. So this is the part that most people struggle with. So grab hold into the back, thumbs grab hold, cough again, feel those muscles, and now think about pushing your thumbs down towards the floor. do a couple more breaths. Okay, so now we've got the 360-degree breath, we're going to work on the brace. So generally day to day, a 360-degree breath is enough core stabilisation that we need, depending on what you're doing. So if you're doing something that is requires more stabilisation, like you're carrying the kids or the shopping or you're lifting weights or whatever it is you're doing, you need to be able to create more stabilisation, more core stabilisation. So to do that, you want to create a brace, which isn't a clench or a tense, or it isn't a sucking in of the tummy button, it's an outward pressure, an outward push. So I use the cue, just imagine that you're farting. So if you take your breath in, feel that expansion, and now before you take your breath out, imagine you're farting. So you're going to create an outward pressure, and then don't let the muscles completely relax as you're breathing out. And feel that the whole way around. Feel the expansion, the outward pressure, the whole way around. Just a couple more breaths. Okay, so now we're just going to start. Where's my ball gone? The ball's rolled away. And we're just going to start with just some shoulder movement, just holding on to the ball. So the ball's not really there for anything other than just to keep the movement, just to focus on keeping the movement controlled. So get yourself in the supine position, stay on your back, and we're just going to take one arm backwards, as far as it can go, swing it around, bring it up and put it into the other hand, and take that arm backwards, swing it around, and just keep doing that, really focusing on nice, controlled, rhythmic movements. As you're bringing the shoulder back into flexion, or the arm back and backwards over your head, really concentrate on what your rib cage and pelvis are doing. Try not to let the rib cage and pelvis disconnect as you're bringing your arm overhead. If you feel like your ribs starting to flare, pause in that position where you feel like it's going to flare, like just pull it back a little bit. Take a breath in, and then try and get a little bit further without that rib cage coming up. So bring that sock into the other hand, bring it round. Do one more each side. Nice smooth movements. So now we're just going to float both arms back at the same time, really focusing on ribs and pelvis staying together. When you're taking the arms back overhead, take the arms so that the thumbs are pointing towards the floor, so your shoulders are externally rotating. Again, if you get to that point where your ribs are starting to flare, pull it back a little bit, breathe in, and the exhalation, we're going to go a little bit further. Okay, arms up in front of you, up to the sky, and we're just going to do some shoulder reaches. So we're going to try and push the fingertips towards the ceiling and then pull back. Pushing towards the ceiling, pull back. Just keep doing that. Let's do one more. Grab hold of your kettlebell. One's a little bit heavier than I wanted it to be. And we're just going to push the kettlebell up to the ceiling with one hand. So same as what we just did. Wrist straight, fingers pointed up towards the ceiling. So reaching and lowering. Reaching, lower, reach, lower, reach, lower. One more. Carefully bring it down into the other hand and then lift that kettlebell into the sky with the other hand and reach, lower, reach, lower. Keep doing that movement. Wrist straight, fingers pointed to the ceiling. Just do a couple more. Bring it down carefully, put it to one side. And then we're just going to lift one leg into the air and lower. Lift the opposite leg. So alternating legs. And then we're going to go from taking single legs up into a double leg. So create your 360-degree breath and then create your outward pressure, your outward brace. And then we're just going to lift the legs and lower and lift. And what we don't want when we're lifting and lowering, when we take the legs up, you don't want to go into this anterior pelvic tilt. So that's where this brace comes in. So 360-degree breath, brace and lift and lower. Keep doing that movement. Keeping the lower back flat on the floor, don't let the lower back lift. This movement's just coming from the hip. And then you want to finish, okay, my knees clicking away, in the 3-month supine position, feet neutral, feet slightly higher than the knees, knees over your hips, hips externally rotated, lower back and pelvis neutral. And then we're just going to do those shoulder rotations again, just trying to improve that range in the shoulder. So bring it up into the other hand, float it back, round, up into the opposite hand. Nice smooth gliding movements in the shoulder. Do one more. Put the ball down. Do some shoulder flexion now. So arms back, thumbs pointed to the floor, down, So keep doing that movement. And then we're just going to pause it up into the sky. And we're going to do the shoulder reaches again. So shoulder reach and lower, and reach and lower, reach, lower. If you need to, if this is too much to hold your legs in the air whilst you're doing all this with the shoulders, you can rest your legs on a ball or on the sofa. So what you don't want is for this to be shaking. This wants to be easy here. So if it needs to, just for a period, just to support your legs, that's fine. So keep reaching and lowering. Reach, lower, reach, lower, reach. Grab hold of the kettlebell again. Take it up to the sky, wrist straight, and then you're reaching and lowering. One more with this side. Lower it down carefully, swap sides. And then the other side. Reach and lower. Keep the wrist straight, fingers pointing to the ceiling. Couple more. Put it down, move it out of the way. Bring your knees in a little bit, just to give your hip flexors a rest. And then we're going to roll. So we're going to roll. So we're going to lift the fingers up to the sky, lift the head, look to the way you're going. And we're just going to roll onto our side. Imagine you've got your Lego body, so shoulders and hips and pelvis want to move at the same time. So you're not disconnecting, you're not going pelvis and shoulders or shoulders and pelvis. You're not collapsing on your side, you're not throwing yourself back. So it's dead controlled in the movement, and then when you lie on your side, end up with this gap here so that you're not bananaed into the floor. And we're going to roll back and then take the arms back into flexion. Thanks for this one, Niam. And then roll onto your side again. To the opposite side, and then come back, arms back. And roll. So alternating sides. Arms back. Arms back. Back. And then last one, we're going to roll. I'm going to roll onto my right hand side. And then what I want, so we've done this before in sort of spinal rotation, relaxation, where we're on our side and we pull it across. But what I want to do today is, instead of doing it as a sort of mobilisation, we're going to get stacked up on top of the shoulder, and you're going to really activate through the shoulder, underneath here, around the back, to extra rotators and depressors. And we're going to use those muscles to push down into the floor, and we're going to open round and then come back. Try and keep the knees on the floor. So open and try and control the movement and come back. So you're pushing down into the floor with that arm, using those external rotators to open you up. And come back. Try and control it. Over. Let's do a couple more. One more. And then from the side lying position, you're going to lift up into lower oblique sit. Come onto the mat a bit more, the floor's a bit uncomfortable. And then roll back down and up. Try not to let your shoulder push forwards into this protracted position, so keep it externally rotated, depressed, and try and control that movement up and down. If you struggle to do that without the shoulder coming forwards, just work on that first part of the movement from being in the lower oblique sit to lowering down, and then back and down. And if you can control it the whole way down, go the whole way down instead. So, working on that balance between internal rotators, external rotators. Try and keep the spine nice and straight as well. Try not to let the spine bend and banana. And just do a couple more. And there's my ball gone. So we're going to stay in this position, really focusing on activating through that shoulder. And we're just going to get the ball again. That's a better position. So really focus on the shoulder the whole way through this. So we're really focusing on external rotation, depression, keeping the spine straight, and we're just going to roll the ball away. Don't let the shoulder collapse. Keep pushing the floor away with the forearm. And then we're just going to roll the ball away, so keep doing that and then bringing it back. Keep pushing the floor. And you should start to feel your external rotators really burning when you're doing this. Let's do a couple more. Okay, so now you're going to straighten the bottom leg, take the top leg, so bend the knee of the top leg, put the foot on the floor, and then we're just going to go from this side lying position, this lower oblique sit, into 4.5 month prone. And then we're going to roll back and roll. And really control that movement. So alternating between lower oblique sit and 4-5 month prone. Control the movement of the body. Try and get the shoulders, pelvis to come at the same time. And just do one more. Really control that movement. And I can really feel my shoulder working hard. Okay, bring the legs back. Oh, that shoulder's really working hard now. So I'm going to roll down onto the side, and then we're going to roll onto our back, and then roll to the opposite side, and we're going to do that again on the opposite side. So roll onto the side Nice straight spine, no banana in. And then we're just going to do that side lying rotation. So we're going to push down into the floor with that arm. So roll. And bring that back. Push down into the floor with the arm. And rotate round. Opening the hands. And then just do 2 more each time as you're opening. Try and push down into the floor using your external rotators of your shoulder. Okay, then from side lying, we're going to go into lower oblique sit. And then down again to side lying, and up. And down, and up. And keep the spine straight, try not to let your spine banana. Again, if you're struggling with that full movement, just start in this lower oblique sit and you're just going to lower down a bit and back up. So keep doing that movement, just do a couple more. And then finish in that lower oblique sit. I'm going to turn around so you can see me. Okay, so we're activating through that left shoulder now, so externally rotate and depress. Push into the floor with the forearm. And then you're just going to roll the ball away and pull it back. Keep pushing through the floor so you're not letting your shoulder collapse. Let's do one more. And then we're going to do the transition from low oblique sit into 4.5 month prone. So we're going to straighten the bottom leg, pull the top leg across, and then we're going to lift into 4.5 month prone, and then back round. So keeping that shoulder active the whole time. Shoulders and pelvis moving as one. Reach with the opposite hand. Feel that shoulder working really hard. And just do one more, and then you're going to finish in 4.5 month prone. Pull the other leg in, so we're going to be going into low quadruped. Okay, so now we're just going to work on our neutral pelvis first of all. So with this position, we want about 90 to 120 degrees of hip flexion, knees wider than the hips, neutral pelvis, so we're going to tilt our pelvis backwards and forwards, find the neutral spine, and then what we want is to make sure that we're working on our upper back as well, so we don't want to be rounded like this. We want to pull our upper back into extension without lower back going into extension. So we need to pull into extension, away from flexion, keeping the pelvis neutral. And we're going to really work on activating through our shoulder girdle. So again, external rotation, depression of the shoulders. And we're just going to hold that position. So get in the right position first, so 90 to 120 degrees of hip flexion. Elbows in line with the ears. Forearms pointed towards each other, so you're going to be like this with your forearms. Wrists in line with the forearms, so they're not twisted out to the side or in. So find your neutral spine. Pelvic tilt backwards and forwards. Find that neutral. Try and get that upper back into extension without losing your lower back, and then you're going to activate into the shoulders. So you're going to push the floor away, externally rotate the shoulders, depress. And we're just going to hold that position and breathe into it. Try not to let the shoulders rise up to the ears, so we're constantly trying to pull them down, externally rotate. Just holding this position initially. And then you're going to grab your ball and we're going to push into the floor. So if we're grabbing with the right hand, we're going to push into the floor with the left forearm and the right knee, trying to keep the body still. So you should really feel this activating in the left shoulder if your left forearm is on the floor. And we're going to roll the ball away with the right hand into shoulder flexion on the right, and then pull it back. And then forwards and back. Forwards, and you can do any movement with this. You can pull it out to the side. So let's just take the ball, actually hold it in the hand, and we're just going to bring the hand round and back and bring it up, pull it back out to the side, roll it around. Keep pushing down into the floor on that left forearm and relax. Now swap sides. So you're going to push down into the floor with the right forearm, left knee, and roll in the ball, pull it forwards and then backwards, out to the side. And you should start to feel this in the right shoulder now. Pick it up, stretch it out, bring it round. So we're working on the movement in the left shoulder, stabilising through the right shoulder. Keep pushing the floor away, don't let your shoulder collapse. And then curl your back feet under, so put your both forearms on the floor for the time being. The ball there. Make sure you've got your neutral, and then you're just going to lift the bum into the air. And we're just going to do a little bit of rolling with that right forearm, so right arm, left forearm pushing into the floor. If that's too much, just lower back down again and roll with the knees on the floor. Do a couple more, lower down. Keep the neutral, pelvis neutral, lower back neutral. Lift up, Pushing into the floor with the right forearm and rolling the ball with the left. A little bit more. And so that requires more stabilisation, so it's harder to do for any length of time. So we're going to go up from low quadruped into quadruped. Again, find your neutral spine. So rock your pelvis backwards and forwards. Find that neutral. Active shoulders. Upper back nice and flat. And then we're just going to do some shoulder flexion. So push down into the floor with the left foot hand and the right knee. And we're just going to pull the right arm backwards and then take the right arm forwards. And back. So really concentrating on the left shoulder. So neutral spine, fingers spread wide. Try not to be fully extended in the elbow, but we're going to push the floor away and pushing the weight into the left hand, right knee. So we can move this arm quite freely and nothing happens in the body. This movement's just coming from that right shoulder. Swap sides, you're going to push down into the right hand now, push the floor away, left knee, and then this left arm is free to move around. Backwards and forwards, out to the side. And then pull it back down. Then we're going to do some scapular pushes in the quadruped. So find your neutral, upper back nice and flat, and then we're just going to push the floor away. So like we were doing on your back, where you were kind of reaching for the sky, we're going to push the floor away, and then we're going to lower and retract the scapula. So find neutral, upper back flat, and then push the floor away, and then retract. And push up, and retract. So alternating between the two movements. Keep the hand completely connected with the floor. Try not to let the inner part lift up, so we want this whole thing to be connected with the floor. Let's do a couple more. And then we're going to go into bear in a second, so I'm just going to take my socks off so they don't slip. So, from quadruped, make sure you've got your neutral spine, upper back nice and flat, shoulders active, and then we're going to lift the bum in the air, so knees off the floor, and what we want to do is, if we're taking the left hand up, we want to transfer the weight into the right hand, left foot, and we're going to move that left arm forwards and backwards. My hand's slipping on this mat. Out to the side, and lower down. Have a little rest, little shake off. That right arm will be a bit fatigued. Need to wipe my hands off because they're sliding. Find your neutral again, upper back nice and flat. Curl the back feet under, lift the bum, transfer weight into the left hand, right knee, and we're going to be moving the right arm out to the side, forwards and back, forwards to the side. Keep pushing the floor away, activating through that left shoulder, hands flat on the left and lower down. Try and keep your neutral spine, don't let your pelvis tilt. Then wipe my hands off again. We're going to go from this bear, so find your neutral again, upper back flat, lift, and then push the knees straight into your plank, or push up starting position. Don't let your lower back go into extension, and we're just going to do some scap pushes again. So we're lowering and pushing the floor away. Lower, push the floor, lower, push the floor, lower, floor, one more, push, knees down, to bear, into quadruped, have a shake up. Then we're going to go from bear, so find your neutral again, upper back flat, every time reset before you go into bear, curl back foot under, lift your bum in the air, and then keep the shoulders active, keep your upper back flat, hinge your hips backwards, move the hands backwards into your squat, forwards a little bit, try and be nice and upright, hold that position, and then stand, down, stand,